feeling your whole body settle through. Crown of the head floating upward. First, lining your body up from the ground up, settling your feet, softening your legs, resting the weight in the appropriate position in front of the sitting bones. Softening your spine. And then once your body is upright and there's enough structure to relax down onto or through, you can soften that space between the eyebrows or around the eyes. You can release your jaw. Soften your tongue, back of your neck. Easing the tops of the shoulders, the front and back sides of the shoulders, even the space beneath the shoulders. Everything releases outward toward the elbow. The elbows as though they hang, releasing your forearms, your wrists, your palms, your fingers. With each exhalation, softening further. Releasing anything that you might be holding in your chest, softening your upper back. Settling your belly, sides of your waist, your lower back. softening your hips and your glutes. And then a wave of release traveling down the legs, through the thighs, around the knees, your lower legs, your ankles, your feet, softening all the way to your toes. Notice if there's any tendency to grip through the legs, even though you're sitting down. So scan your body for those. Let go of the easiest places first. Like you may find that it's very easy for you to relax your toes and the bottoms of your feet if you're sitting down. Might be harder when you're standing or walking. It's to practice letting all of that go. And then allowing those very soft areas to open and spread to the spaces next to them, allowing them to also let go and become soft. Just a few more breaths. With each exhalation, releasing further. With each inhalation, deepening this sense of stillness and internal calm. Notice how they're related. And then when you're ready, remember that we have the goal within this set of developing great softness in our hands. So start here. Hands warm and soft and alive. Letting that warmth soak in around the eyes, behind the eyes. Always letting the tension drain out of your arms if your arms and shoulders are getting tired today. It's perfectly fine to give yourself a break. As I do in every class, I'd like to welcome those people who are just finding us from across the internet. Please do check down below and click on the link that will guide you to an introductory lesson for this particular set. It will make it much easier for you to follow us during these live sessions, so I'm not always explaining everything every single class. Beginning to warm those points next to the nose. Your awareness soaking into the body, feeling into these spaces. Pressing just hard enough to reach that space beneath the skin. Feel any collected fluids, especially if you've had a tiring day. Maybe you find lymph fluid or any kind of edema beneath the skin. And if you push too hard, you actually obstruct the movement of that fluid. If you press too light, nothing happens. But if you reach just in that space between the muscles or the bone and the skin, you can help circulate and free things and move them around. Emphasizing this movement opening and away. And again, we have to develop that capacity to listen, to feel, in order to know when too hard is too hard. So please do pay attention. You can keep your jaw a little bit open during this practice to help open that space a bit in front of the ear. The warmth of your awareness soaking into your body. If you find your mind wandering away, just lose interest in what's distracting you and come back to the present moment. Continue to come back and come back and come back. Hands soft, easy. Take as long as you need with this closing and settling to allow everything to descend down in your body, to begin to allow your mind to accumulate and settle in this space. We also, at the end of the class, use that method of swallowing saliva and following the saliva down to the dantian. And you can always use that during any of these closing practices if you find that it helps you to sink your chi down and to settle. A lovely green tea. Are you warm enough? Good. Your hands getting softer and softer. Your awareness as well, settling more and more into the body. Working all three of these points here on the forearm, large intestine 11, 10, and 9. And just a reminder that you can use any technique, your fingertips, your palms, base of your thumb, corner of your fist. Actually, this one to me feels the most nourishing today. Every day it will be different. So please do learn how to listen to your body, to begin to notice as it starts to open. If you have trouble being able to feel whether or not your body is softening under your touch or responding, then it's simply a matter of becoming more quiet, more attentive and present. Or just putting in more time softening your body so that you can begin to recognize the sensation, how it shows up for you. For a long time, these areas were the most difficult for me to feel, whether or not they were softening or relaxing. Sometimes all I would notice would be a kind of a vague achiness as my awareness went into these areas, even though my touch is very light. And I began to understand that what I was experiencing was what was going on inside. It's just that I had a lot of tension and damage in these areas of my wrists. And that achiness was the way my body was letting me know that there was trauma and work that had to be done here, so I could spend more time. And now, with time, what I experience is more of that sense of warm, spreading, almost a kind of ticklish feeling. I'm not quite sure how to describe a very tingling, moving feeling.
A minty feeling?
It's not minty for me, but a minty for you. Yeah, ZhiCheng describes it as effervescent. It's different for everybody. And in every spot in your body, it should feel different. But it's more that we have to learn to recognize when our body is communicating and what it's trying to tell us. Sometimes it shows up as physical sensation, warmth, coolness, movement, pressure. Sometimes it shows up as a feeling of ants marching. Very visual people experience it as colors or changes. People with a lot of emotional experience, they will actually feel as their emotions shift when they're releasing these points. And so for you, if you're very emotionally based and your emotional sensory system is stronger than your kinesthetic sensory system, then maybe you feel a sense of emotional relief or a kind of calm washes over you. It's different for everybody, and I think it's worth coming to understand how you experience this. And then once you do know what you're looking for, you would practice until those changes begin to happen. Those would be the cues that you might look for. And for those of you who might not have heard, down below is a link to a page, a list of all of these movements and the numbers of repetitions that are often recommended, often up to 100, which might be more than we can fit into this class. But if you take a look at it, part of what you have to understand is that those numbers are substitutes for people who are unable to feel these changes happening in their body. And if you are able to start noticing these shifts happening, then you would simply practice until those shifts happened. And then you'll notice that your practice often becomes very lopsided. One side will need a lot more than another, things like that. But that's perfectly appropriate because you are simply doing what the body needs in that moment. And that is appropriate. Remember to keep that shoulder that you're using nice and soft as you soften the. Don't use tension in order to try to generate softness. It doesn't work very well. There will be people that have trouble feeling when they're becoming, that they lack even that level of sensitivity. And if that's the case, then you should probably stick with using the numbers as best you can until you're able to feel when you're actually becoming tired. And for people who practice, your sensitivity will become greater and greater until you're not only able to feel when you're tired, but just before you're about to become tired, which of course is when you would stop. Before you're about to generate tension, which is when you would stop. And if you're able to feel tension and relaxation, that's your way in to knowing when you are increasing more relaxation in your body through your practice. And for the most part, in the beginning, people can only feel tension and relaxation in their muscles, not so much in their skin or in this fascial or other aspects of their body, their nervous system. We're using the word relaxation just because that's a word that people know. But this capacity for openness and throughness and connection with these deeper layers of the body is very possible. We just have to pay attention. So this is me encouraging you to pay attention. keeping your shoulders soft, your hands even softer. Notice what it feels like as your body settles, as your mind sinks down into your body effortlessly. Easing open the solar plexus. Just a reminder to sink in to that layer of the fascia, not too deep. You can even experiment by pushing not hard enough so you're just skimming over the top of the skin or your own shirt, or too deep so that you're compressing all the way into your diaphragm or the bone. There's layers of depth. We want to be able to feel the right one. If your tactile senses are really clear, you can even begin to feel a different kind of movement at this layer. Below the skin moves differently than the musculature, moves differently than just the skin on top. You can begin to feel this fascial layer. There are therapists that this is all they work on, and they become very good at feeling this layer. So within this set, if we spend the full 100 days, we want to begin to develop that capacity as well. It's just a matter of paying attention. We've been working on learning the various channels that travel up from the legs and traverse the torso. And if you've been part of those and have been learning, see if you can feel. Today is all about learning to feel more deeply and more clearly. Remember that your shoulders sink down as your elbows come up beneath your collarbone. And the emphasis is upon the sinking down on the sides of the body, consolidating toward the middle. Can't do
Not
it.
quite. Oh, you're getting closer.
It's a very serious expression. He nails that broodingly handsome face.
Mm-hmm.
Dark and mysterious.
Well, it helps that he's a monochrome. That always adds drama.
further we progress in this 100-long, the deeper we want to be able to settle, deeper in the sense of that space between, deeper in the quality, restful, more quiet, more deeply settled with our awareness. Listening and feeling and allowing your awareness to accumulate in that space. Not pushing our awareness. That will cause our chi to rush upward. Instead, just letting your mind come to rest. With practice, it does get easier. Remember that I'm doing an increased number of these movements on the back. So you want to be especially soft, to take breaks whenever you need to. Keeping your shoulders released, your hands getting softer and softer with each movement. Moving at whatever speed feels most nourishing and helpful for you. Opening the back, warming the center and opening the back away from the space that is usually collapsed. Feeling into that space in your back. Pushing just hard enough to sink into that layer beneath the skin, to warm and soften. Please remain gentle and friendly. Just this quiet contact and listening. I know some of you like to dance with a partner, and I bet you've all experienced, if you have gone dancing with somebody, where as you dance with them, there's sometimes two stages of dancing. There's, oh, my partner and I are learning new moves, and so we're sort of practicing the moves, but we're not really practicing with each other. It's too difficult to try to do the movement with you and them at the same time. And so there's this sort of stiff indifference to the movements. The movement is integrated, and it's now just something they're capable of doing. Now they start to communicate with you. They're listening to you when you want to go slower or faster, or if your movements need to change or something like that. They're now listening even to your emotional state, how you're feeling about the movement. Maybe they notice if you're feeling nervous or excited or something, and that comes through the communication. And that's the kind of communication we're trying to have here. You could be distracted, you could be watching TV or something, and you're kind of coldly just rubbing the spot, and nothing's being communicated to your body. But if you're present and attentive, your hands are warm and soft, and there's this communing with your tissues. There's a feeling passing through, an awareness of this kindness and friendliness, attentiveness, a willingness to change. Just in the same way that your partner can pick up on that, your body picks up on that as well. And then similarly, you're listening to your body as it's giving you feedback. Oh, we spend so much of our lives disconnecting from our own experience that sometimes it takes a lot of practice to find our way back in. I recommend avoiding any of the mind over matter mentality stuff. It's just a way to disconnect from yourself. Your mind and your matter are the same process. It's strange that we pretend that they're separate. Just from this one practice, you'll notice that as your body softens and relaxes, your mind changes. And of course, the other way around. Stomach 36, spleen 9, gallbladder 34, spleen 9. These points in the outside and the inside. As you start to learn their names and their locations, you can become more in touch with the way that they communicate. One area will feel weakened or tight in a certain way, another feels delicate or springy, and balance and imbalance at each of these points will look and feel different. Your body has a lot of different functions. So now let's spend some extra time on that space behind the knee, between these two tendons. Again, you can pull up and move those two tendons that they're connected to are soft. And then that point in just the center of the two, in the crease of the knee, bladder 40, wei zhong, is a wonderful spot to help continue to release tension in the lower back You want to wait until that space behind the knee begins to soften and feel warm. It's easy to skip this space. It's a place we don't really think about very often, but it's a very important space to keep warm and soft. Comfortable circles, gentle and easy. Because I've had so much knee damage over the years, as my awareness soaks into my knees and this fascial layer, I have a lot of that achy sensation that increases as my mind pushes into these areas that are damaged. And I've noticed that it's gotten better and better throughout this practice. I've just beat my knees up so terribly over a lifetime of being stupid in the martial arts. And so it's neat that I can feel the change over time just from this delicate connection of my mind, because I know now what it feels like when there's injury or stagnation. And so the recognition that it's getting less and less is a really good sign. Can you make the face?
It's kind of like he's just staring off into space. Like his face.
Really?
And just...
It's hard. For those of you who stick around to the end of class, I will show you this mug. It has a man's mug on it, trying to mimic his mixture of mysterious sincerity and vague sex appeal. It's very strange. I'm not very good at facial expressions, and so it's good practice for me.
He's either thinking about Tibet Or one
Cherry
of those
pie.
FBI cases. Or cherry pie. Probably cherry pie.
Remember to keep your hands very soft. At this point in the practice, you had about an hour and a half of just softening your hands. So you want to feel what that accumulation of softness is like in your tissues. Can you begin to allow that kind of softness to spread up your arms? This kind of fullness and ease, gentle warmth, as it permeates your whole body, it begins to shape it differently. And then we use that shape in all of our practices. It's a shape that can only be found through this deep softness and fullness. I want to give a sense of sitting on something, lifting you off the ground a little bit. Maybe I'll use it this way, which is not what this is designed for, but that's too rounded. Finding something that lifts your hips up off the ground a little bit can make a really big difference if you find that your lower back feels stiff as we practice.
The legs didn't feel straight?
Well, they're rounded, so it's a very unsteady feeling as I try to sit on it.
I usually put my knees under it.
That's right, which I couldn't do for this one. This is Mel's meditation stool. Continuing to soften your body, lengthening all the way down, lengthening this way on your legs, this way on your spine. Your shoulders stay soft, settled in their proper location, rather than rolling up towards your ears. If you do this in the appropriate way, with this lengthening this direction, your upper body lengthening this way, it spreads open your lower back. If you crunch your body down and pull in, it actually adds tension to your back. So you want to continue to lengthen through all of these movements. Similarly here, if you're gripping and tightening around your hips to create this movement, then you're adding tension up here. But if you're soft enough, you can see if I just push my legs, how soft they are. And I can use my hands to help with the movement a little bit. But most of the movement is coming just from a gentle release inward and outward. Then that helps to soften the hips, and it helps to create release in this area through your hips and your lower back, all the way down to your feet. This thing is pretty comfortable because it's just a plank of wood with a little bit of cushion on top, so it's supportive. If you'd like to lay flat, you're certainly welcome to. And if you need to place something beneath your head or beneath your knees, take the pressure off of your back. Sometimes people will need support beneath their lower back, their elbows. Find what works for you. Everyone's body is in a different position and condition. Your awareness spreading out through your body. Softening deeply. You might even be able to feel your whole body at once through this unbroken layer we've been cultivating. At some point, if you'd like to, of course, you can find your way back into a seated position. allowing your awareness again to accumulate in that space in the center of your body. Once it does, allow there to be a foundation there, and it's as though it spreads out from that point. Of the room, as though you're being aware of the whole room from that point, staying grounded and resting in this space in your body, even as you with the world. See what that feels like. Thank you, everybody. If there's any questions, do feel free to ask. Oh, and maybe I'll show them your cup.
Oh, yeah.
We can have a contest to see who can best imitate Dale Cooper's face. This is the face that I was trying to imitate unsuccessfully. Let's see if I can try here. I don't think it's working.
Probably an INTJ.
INTJ, him? Do you think so?
I would guess. He has the INTJ stare.
Thank you, Steph. It is lovely to have you, especially in these last days before.
Yeah, congratulations, Mama.
Yeah,
So
pretty exciting. Okay, looks like no questions. If anybody wants to take a photograph of them attempting the Dale Cooper face, please do send it to me. It will enter a contest. Whoever wins the contest wins this mug.